When I was 12 years old, I took a bike ride that changed my life. Up until then, every day since I had learned to ride, there had been a strict cutoff point set at the end of my half-mile-long street, because waiting there was a busy road full of cars with no sidewalk. On this particular day, there suddenly was no cutoff point, because the neighborhood where my family was staying had been designed to be interconnected with all the other neighborhoods around it, so kids there could walk and ride everywhere. Seeing other children my own age living this totally unfamiliar lifestyle was a revelation for me, and I immediately began dreaming of building cities that made people as happy as that place made me, and wondering why every neighborhood wasn't already built this way to begin with. Growing up as the son of a real estate investor, I had the chance to ask my dad why the world was built the way it was. His answers and my personal experiences eventually led me to conclude that while a brick may cost the same as any other brick, how we arrange those bricks affects the potential of each of our lives, which in turn affects the potential of society. This made me realize that real estate design and development aren't just issues of taste or of business. These are major ethical issues, which depending upon how we address them, become either threats or opportunities for our entire civilization. So once again, I was left wondering why we as a society would choose to limit our own happiness and our own potential with the way we were building the world. Now, when most of us try to imagine a great neighborhood, our minds immediately jump to images concerning product design. We dream of streets that have been laid out by planners to create walkable, interconnected neighborhoods that use cafes, boutiques, and parks to lure us out of our private homes and bring us together socially. Where architects are busy creating beautiful, non-toxic, energy-efficient houses that protect the environment and our families' healths while simultaneously lowering our utility bills. And we're just on the outskirts of town. Young farmers are designing the biodynamic crop rotations we need to put fresh food on our tables and support jobs in our local economies. With all of this driven by the brilliance of engineers who have created site-specific sources of clean, renewable energy that work with nature instead of against it in order to provide the power we need for modern living. This tendency to think of our world in terms of product design has inspired an abundance of talented problem solvers to create countless solutions to almost every issue we face. But how many of us get to live in this neighborhood I've just described? And maybe a better question, why doesn't everyone? As I left college to begin work, this longing that had started when I was 12 years old had turned into a passion to answer this one question. And after years spent reading books and talking to architects, developers, bankers, lawyers, and anyone who I thought might know the answer or at least have some hint to it, I was left facing a simple truth. In the real estate industry, good product design was missing the most critical platform required for success in the world, a good business model to match it. So this talk is actually a challenge to the real estate industry, the business community in the world, to stop telling designers what can't be done and start designing the business model we need to bring their ideas to market. And if we want to change the way the world is built, to be able to protect the environment, to improve our families' health, to support our local economies, to make our world more beautiful and ourselves happier, if we want to be able to move past the cutoff point we've set for society with the way we are currently building our world, we don't need to invent a new technology. We don't need to design a more seductive, sustainable house. The only thing we need is the business model for building a better world. And after 18 years, I think there are only 3 things that need to change. First, we have to get people investing in the places where they live, love, or understand, and not in the places they don't. Right now, more of our world is purchased every day by absentee investors who believe they have the analytical tools to invest in anything, anywhere, from a cubicle often located on the other side of the world. We have to realize that not all investors are created equal. We need investors who add value beyond the size of the check they're willing to write in terms of what they know and what they're able and willing to do individually to help all of us succeed. If we want to be able to build great places, we have to redesign our investment models to require investors to first believe in the community they're investing in before they can believe in the investment itself. And we have to look for our investors by starting with people who already want to belong to these communities. The second thing we have to do is to redefine success as how long an investor can stay in an investment instead of how fast they can flip and get out. Real estate got its name from being the real part of someone's estate that was expected to leave a physical and financial legacy long after that person was gone. Now, we construct buildings that will last for decades or generations in order to sell them within 5 years. We've taken what once looked like a multi-generational asset and we've turned it into something that looks more like an extraction industry. We've gotten very good at identifying where value exists within a market and how to extract it quickly using apartments, strip malls, office buildings before selling and moving on to the next spot. What we haven't really figured out is what our role is in creating that market value to begin with. You can't build great places if everyone's so obsessed with taking the spoils that no one wants to put in the efforts you need to create value in the first place. But if we're going to redefine success as not flipping, investors have to believe that we're going to be able to build value in those assets for the rest of their lives. Which brings me to the third and final difference about the business model for building a better world. We create real estate value when we build value in our communities. Growing up, my dad always told me that he'd only seen smart people lose money in real estate in one of two ways. Either they weren't in the financial position to survive a tough spot in the economy, or the neighborhood unexpectedly went downhill. What I don't think my father and the other people in the business might have realized is that their investments might have actually been part of the reason for these neighborhoods' ultimate decline in the first place. Because the investment community wasn't supporting the communities that created their property values to begin with. You see, the funny thing about real estate is that even though all those bricks and mortar are what make it such an expensive business to get into in the first place, the future value of a building has almost nothing to do with the original cost of those bricks. Instead, it's actually what happens inside of a building that lets a buyer or a banker determine what it's worth. So real estate's real value is actually determined by what a community produces using it. And therefore, its real purpose should be to support the greatest potential of that community. Real estate is really just the infrastructure for community. Now, what's really cool if we're able to address these three changes is that a new type of person emerges walking down our streets, the citizen investor. As I mentioned earlier, ownership can be a legal property right, but it's also the feeling of accountability we have for something we've helped to create. To be able to build great places, we need people to have both. There needs to be a daily tension in all of us between the common good and our own self-interest. And rather than investors who are only looking to maximize their financial gain, or citizens who are only looking to maximize their lifestyle without considering everything that goes into creating it, this new type of citizen investor has to constantly balance the lifestyle and the returns they want with the economic, environmental, and social limits we face. Now, as I wrap up, I want you to all take a moment to imagine a neighborhood owned by these neighbors. I want you to imagine the long-term commitment they could have to this place. I want you to imagine what would happen if these people understood that through building their community, they were actually building their own financial strength. And finally, I want you to picture the eyes of all of this new type of person as they walk down the streets of their neighborhoods every day, dreaming of the possibilities waiting there for themselves and for their communities. What a beautiful, wonderfully designed world that would be. Thank you very much.